Hello, everyone. Welcome to VRIC Media, your most trusted voice in metals and mining. I'm your host, Daryl Thomas, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Taylor Kenney, the economic journalist of ITM Trading. How you doing today, Taylor?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too, as well. Always appreciate the conversations we have and everything. It's always filled with humor and a lot of seriousness, especially when it comes to gold, the dollar, BRICS, and things of that nature. So I'm happy to dive into that today. So I just want to start with your overall general outlook on gold and where do you think we headed from here? We've went over 3,700. It's cooled off a little bit, and everything, but it's still staying pretty elevated. And so I just want to get your general outlook there.
My outlook is it is just getting started. I think that gold is cheap. It's significantly undervalued. And I think so many people focus on day-to-day movements, right? Like, oh, we hit this milestone or it's cooled off a little bit. But in the big scope of things, when we look at what all the big players are doing and all these pieces on the puzzle and on the board, it is only going to go up, in my opinion. Absolutely. We're just getting started.
Just getting started?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like the show is getting on the road. So what makes you say we're just getting started? Let's dive into that. What factors do you still think that are approaching or haven't played out yet fully or whatnot? What are you seeing there?
There's so much going on, but I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is, of course, the decline in demand for U.S. debt, right? And in general, a breakdown of trust in fiat. I think globally, right, we're seeing this shift away from fiat currencies and into commodities. And specifically, of course, anytime there's been some kind of monetary reset, everyone goes back to gold because it has survived for thousands of years. It's a true store of value, all the things everyone already knows. But I think that the difference is this time is that the dollar is the global reserve currency. So when you have the faith in the dollar crumbling rapidly and you have countries ditching the dollar, it's going to change the entire game, right? It's not just one nation or one currency we're talking about. This is going to impact the entire system as we know it. And that's why I think gold is truly just getting started, because while we can look at the dollar and say, oh, since 1913, it's lost 97% of its purchasing power and it's worth nothing today compared to what it used to be, there's still a decent way to go, right? Like we aren't in societal anarchy quite yet here, right? So as the dollar continues to decline in value, we're only going to see gold go up.
Okay. Yep. Got you on that one. So just thinking about the dollar, the dollar, some people may view it as toilet paper, right? And just thinking about that, right? The dollar's lost, 97% of its value, and people's purchasing power is really at risk. And so what do you think about the amount of people that aren't aware of this, that aren't, on board with gold yet or preserving their purchasing power? It seems like a lot of people are going to be harmed with this massive amount of money printing and such. And so I just want to get your perspective there.
They are, unfortunately, right? I think there's that saying, the stock market's not the economy, but just this past weekend, actually, I was at a family friends event and quite a few people, I was telling them about what I've been seeing, what I've been researching. And there's this easy dismissal, right, of the types of things I'm talking about. Because the second people hear dollar collapse or dollar decline, they go, people have been saying that forever. That's just, doom and gloom. It's not actually going to happen. Stock market's going up. Things are good for me. And it's kind of this dismissal. And I think, again, it's because sometimes the things we're talking about are so big picture that people are just in their lane and they don't see what's coming, right? And I think we do our best to try and educate and spread the word, but there are a lot of people who are going to be caught very unaware, in my opinion. I think, again, we do our best to get that message out there, but there are a ton of people who have no idea what's coming next. I think they're thinking worst case scenario, oh, it's going to be maybe a recession, or maybe they feel that things aren't quite right, but they don't realize how big this really is.
So you mean to tell me that people are going to be caught with their pants down pretty much if, when this thing collapses, when this house of cards falls over and everything. And so is that what you mean to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? And I think, again, people only everything's relative. So I think in people's lifetimes, they go back to things they've experienced before, what they know, what they've lived, and they look at that and try and with the information they have today, determine what's happening right now and what's coming next. And I think, again, things seem okay. And I think if you look back in time, you might think, okay, well, maybe there will be some more loss of jobs. Maybe the stock market will go down, but I don't think anyone's really prepared for a world where the dollar is not at the center of it. And that is obviously where we're headed. It's going to be uncharted territory is what I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that perspective. So just, I want to start with, I want to share an article that I caught recently on Reuters. And this was pretty alarming for me in terms of like you have a CIO, a chief investment officer, who is from Morgan Stanley, who is pretty much saying that now he favors a 60-20-20 portfolio weighting with gold as inflation hedge. And so when I was reading through this article here recently, it says Wilson, however, favors a 60% allocation to equities and 20% to each fixed income in gold. I mean, for me, I would prefer to have, maybe 60-40, 40% gold and no exposure to bonds or U.S. debt at all. But I mean, this does seem like a significant shift in the minds of folks on Wall Street or folks that are managing big amounts of capital. And so I want to get your perspective there.
Yeah, I think this is something we're going to see more of. So the same way that a lot of people have no idea what's going on, it's not a lie that you can see that gold is entering the mainstream conversation, right? I would say even a year ago, if you just did a Google search on gold, right, or tried to see what people were saying about gold, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Now, part of that is, of course, it's going up, and anytime anything goes up, people pay attention. But I do believe that this is clearly a shift that we're going to start to see, as you just can't keep the farce going on forever that everything's okay. And eventually, these institutions are going to have to protect their clients somewhat, or at least get on board. So I do think this is indicative of what's coming next. I'm surprised you don't want any of those bonds in there. You don't want that U.S. debt?
No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, in thinking about U.S. debt, I mean, obviously we had the recent Genius Act passed, which is to create demand for U.S. treasuries and such. And so, want to get your take there, the Genius Act. Do you think this is a Trojan horse, or what do you think is going on there with this new act that's been passed?
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, Trojan horse could mean a couple of things, right? I mean, number one, I know there's a lot of people who are concerned about stablecoins being some kind of gateway into a CBDC-like-esque, not CBDCs, but kind of more control or less freedom monetarily. But I think what you're talking about is, of course, this kind of let's save the treasury market as it is by issuing and pouring into stablecoins, because, of course, that's going to create more demand for U.S. treasuries being backed one-to-one. Now, I actually just have been digging into this a ton. I don't know if you saw Anton Kobiakov, Putin's senior advisor, his speech last week that came out on the global stage. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did catch that.
Okay, yeah. So I've been super deep into that, because I think, and for anyone out there who maybe missed it, essentially he came out right on the global stage and pointed a finger straight at the U.S. and said, hey, you guys are trying to do a global rug pull. Everyone needs to wake up and see this is what's going on, which I thought takes a lot of, to come out really guns a-blazing at the U.S. like that. But right, he's not wrong, right? He even said, too, they've done it before in the 30s. When we talk about gold confiscation, they've done it in the 70s when Nixon delinked the dollar from gold. People love to say, oh, the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt, which is a lie. It's just not true. And maybe it's not a blatant black and white, oh, we're not paying you back, but there are silent defaults, right? There are ways around it. And that is what they're proposing the United States is going to do here, too. So continue to push this stablecoin adoption, which, I mean, if you look at just Tether alone, right, as one of the giants in the space, specifically with USD, what we are seeing is that they are the 13th largest, if you were counting them as like a foreign investor, holder of US debt, right? They're above Germany. So that's just to give people a scope and scale. Because I also see a lot of people go, well, that's never going to happen. It's not going to be that big. Newsflash, it already is, and it's only growing. So of course, with the passage of the Genius Act, we are going to see more adoption of this. And there's a reason that they're jumping on board so quickly, when traditionally I would say that anything that's passing through the US government, it takes forever. And they're slow to adopt these kind of new things, right? There's a reason that they're jumping on board. And it makes sense. Number one, of course, prop up this debt market that is drowning because no one wants our debt anymore. So prop it up and create that artificial demand. And then phase two, this is what Kobiakov was saying, is, once it's big enough, you devalue it. So essentially, instead of it being backed 1-to-1, maybe it's backed 1 to 80 cents, 50 cents, 40 cents, who knows? And at that point, it's too late. What are you going to do? Right? I mean, that's the problem with fiat currency. That's the problem with not having tangible real ownership over something, is that you have no control. They hold all the cards, right? So I think what we're seeing now is maybe more people are aware. Like the US has done this before. They're going to do it again is kind of the thing. But I don't know. Is it enough to really wake people up? Probably not. I think that this is going to continue to push forward. And I think there's a good chance that's what could happen here.
Okay. So I do want to get your take on gold revaluation and such. Mm-hmm. I mean, this has been a constant topic of folks saying that, okay, well, one way we can, get ourselves out of this hole is to revalue the gold on our books. Mm-hmm. And I was doing some math, and I think if we were to revalue it even at like $15,000 an ounce, I mean, I think that only brings in about $4 trillion or something. And when you look at the deficits and such, that's not a lot to do. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot compared to the big scope of like how much debt, the deficits, and things of that nature. And so, do you think this revaluation of gold is something that's likely to happen, or do you think this is like smoke or noise, or what do you think?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a gold bug's dream, right? I always see people pish-posh and go, oh, that's just their dream. But there's a reason it's being talked about. This didn't just come out of nowhere, right? The Federal Reserve themselves issued a note, a research note outlining other central banks that have done official gold revaluations and the impact it had on their debt. Do you think they're just doing that for fun? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there's a reason they're sitting around and researching this. They're looking into this. There's been way too many things over time that lead us to believe that this is a real possibility that's being considered. Now, I don't know if they're just going to come out and do it out of nowhere. I personally think it's probably going to be in tandem with something else, maybe like, let's say we were just talking about the stable coin devaluation of our dollar, our debt, right? If that were to happen, maybe it's a two-prong approach. You do something where you kind of pull the rug out from everyone and you reduce our debt or devalue the dollar, but then there's a loss of confidence in the dollar if you do that. And you have to bolster that confidence back up, because you can't just devalue everything and then expect everyone to still invest in your debt or whatever it might be. So then you revalue the gold and say, hey, this is backed by gold. We have this, whatever the math works out to be. That could be an option. Now, as far as $15,000 an ounce goes, I've heard everything, from 10 to 150,000. I don't know what it would be. I think that's where the speculation comes in, is what would the math be? That's the big question mark. I think we have enough clues at this point and enough information and obvious signals that this is something they're considering. As far as what that number would be, that's where I think it gets a little speculative.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I can see that. So just thinking about gold itself, and obviously the Fed, trying to, well, not the Fed, the U.S. government trying to get out of this massive hole. I mean, it reminds me, I watch a lot of basketball. It reminds me like when the second string is like subbed in when they're down like 30 points, and you're trying to pull a
How does that
trick out
usually
the hat,
go?
right?
How does that usually end?
You're trying to pull a trick out the hat. So just thinking about gold, stable coins and such. There was recent articles about Tether getting more involved in gold and such. And so this is I think this is big, because you have something that's tied to crypto, Bitcoin. Traditionally, it has only been seen in that space. Now this entity is looking at buying gold. I think they're issuing a Tether coin that's backed 1-to-1 to gold, as well as investing in some of the public companies as far as gold-related companies. And so do you have any perspective there?
Yeah, I actually get asked that quite a bit. I think for a lot of people, it might be exciting because I think, listen, it just goes to show again, everyone's trying to get a piece of gold and get in on the action. I think there are a lot of people out there too who want to be involved, or maybe it's merging two worlds that they're excited about. For me personally, if you ask my own opinion, yeah, sure. It's bringing more gold into the mainstream, but at what cost to the individual who, again, maybe then isn't having physical ownership. I am always going to come back to, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I am traditional in that sense. Call me old fashioned, but ultimately I know that I trust myself. Do I trust Tether? Do I trust these different organizations? Do I trust whoever the middleman is, right? Or whoever's holding it, or the vault, or all these different things that are a part of this? No, right? If I can't see it, if I can't audit it, if I don't know myself that I have it, then it doesn't do me as much good, especially for, I think, what's coming next. Because ultimately, I think that as things continue to decline and get worse and worse, people, companies, institutions are going to get more desperate. And they're always going to look out for number one, right? That's my view on it anyway. It might be a little bit dark, but that's why I personally believe in owning and holding your own gold and silver and not trusting any kind of intermediary, whatever it might be.
Timing's everything in this business. We've seen commodity prices really move up. The copper price, that started to move up strongly. We're not far off all-time highs, although you wouldn't know it from the junior sector and copper companies in general. But I think over the next year or two, we're going to see that really correct to the upside, and you're going to see a lot of money come into the sectors. Vizsla Copper, we're the team that brought you successes including ISO Energy and Vizsla Silver. If you want to learn more, you can find us at vizslacopper.com.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little more. I want to challenge you on that view.
Okay.
All right. So just thinking about that, like, I mean, that's the traditional view that I've held and I still hold. I mean, obviously, when I'm investing in a mining company, I'm investing based on the leverage. I mean, this year, gold's up, over 30%. And then when you look at like the GDX, it's up 77%. And, usually these equities are going to outperform the gold. But obviously these equities are measured in dollars and you're not holding the real money. But you could transition those profits into the real money, which is gold. And so that would be like one reason why, why I invest in those equities. But then thinking about, I think the ultimate thing is, for me, it's like, okay, how do I reduce risk? Counterparty risk. I mean, obviously, if you're holding it in the vault, if you're holding it in, I've been researching a little bit about the gold IRAs. Even if you were to buy like something like Fizz on the stock exchange, you can't really redeem the gold unless you're like a big hedge fund that has a lot of capital to redeem the gold. That the equity is tied to,
right?
And such. And so, just thinking about all of these different ways to kind of mitigate risk, because I think about, okay, when I hold it, if I'm just holding it in my house and, let's say, there's a house fire or you have a robber or something, or a thief come in and thieves come in and steal your stuff, right? Then you're just ass out of luck, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I just been kind of thinking about, okay, how do you diversify that risk and such? Because I would rather hold the metal, but, to be honest, there's a lot of risk. And then also I was talking with someone who just got tired of moving these freaking 1,000-ounce silver bars. Like, just like, I'm tired of moving this heavy stuff. Like,
they're back with curtain. Yeah, with all that.
And so, I mean, obviously gold is at a higher price measured in dollars. So, it's going to be less heavy than the silver weight. But for the silver bugs, I mean, that's a lot of weight to try to move around and stuff. And so, do we got to set booby traps in our house? Like, what do we got to do? Like,
No, I hear you. It's a good question. I think for me, it all comes back to the why, right? So when you first started challenging me on this, you were describing a completely different reason of where you're putting your funds, right? You're talking about maximum gain or taking risks or investing. And it's not that gold obviously isn't a great investment because we've seen it perform extremely well this year. That being said, if you want to take a certain percentage of whatever you want to invest and put it somewhere else because you believe in that and you believe it's going to go up and do whatever you think it's going to do, incredible. I'm all for that. I mean, everyone likes to make a profit, right? And, well, maybe not everyone, but most people people like to gamble. I know I do too. It's just a different mindset and a different way of looking at it. When I look at gold and silver, that's my insurance policy against what's coming next. Obviously, we're in this kind of subject matter all day long. We see what's happening on a global stage. We see what's happening with the United States. We see what's happening with the dollar and with BRICS and with this and that and all these different things. When you see all that information, you know what's coming your way. I want to sleep well at night knowing that no matter what, if everything came crashing down tomorrow, not saying it will, right? It's a process, one that's accelerating. But when that day comes, I just want to know I'm protected. Now, there's kind of an and to that for me, which is, and we were just talking about a gold revaluation or a dollar devaluation. And I truly, truly do believe that gold is just getting started. So I do believe long term that buying more of it and holding more of it now is the move for me because I know it's just getting started. But I'm not anti other investments. It's just the way I look at it is, again, the why. And I think I'm so focused right now on making sure I'm protected and having my insurance policy in place.
Okay. And so what do you think about, like the counterparty risk that's increased whenever you hold in a vault? I mean, because just thinking about it, let's say, we're in the U.S. and you say you got to get out of the U.S. or something. Some people hold, gold in vaults in other nations and such. I mean, I guess it depends on how much money you got or whatever. Yeah. But, so like things of that nature, right, to kind of diversify some of that risk. And then also, the gold, like retirement accounts and such. And so I was kind of just thinking about that because some of the argument for a cryptocurrency or Bitcoin is that, okay, you travel with this code, and you can go across any nation, in the world and have access to your wealth. And obviously with gold, that's a different, challenge that you have to face unless you're in like some gold equities or you're in some like Sprott Fizz or, physical trust on the stock exchange or something like that. But just want to get your perspective on that part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, my background that I am a prepper by nature, so I'm all for redundancies. So again, don't get me wrong, right? Like I think that there's nothing wrong with having different redundancies and being prepared for different situations. So what you're explaining definitely could be one. I just think, again, for me, it comes back to tried and true. Now, there are situations, right? Like I obviously am, I don't know, public figure, maybe not so much, but I'm not trying to tap my own, I don't know, but I'm online, right? My face, my face is on the internet. People know who I am. That brings security risk. So I'm not going to have all my gold holdings at my house. Would I love to? Yes, because that would be number one for me. But ultimately, I really can't for safety and security, right? You are inherently, yes, you're right, taking counterparty risk anytime you're going to vault because you have to trust the vault and you have to trust the people there. Now, I think, again, the only thing that gives me some comfort is that when I talk about buying physical gold, for me, it's different than silver. Silver is kind of my daily driver. But with gold, I view it like I'm exchanging my dollars in for gold. And when the time comes, if I needed to, right, I could exchange my gold in for dollars. Now, I don't typically believe that the world is going to end overnight, right? We talk about this process. I think that it's picking up. I think that we still have a lot of events and milestones to go. And ideally, right, I will be prepared and ready if I needed to exchange that gold into dollars. But yeah, you're right. It does come with risk. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I do want to touch on the recent event that happened. And I've read the book, The Fourth Turning, and, it seemed like there was this event with Charlie Kirk last week added a lot of volatility and chaos in our United States political system, as well as tension between American citizens and such. And, just thinking about the risk of any type of internal conflict and how that may relate to prepping and such. And so I just want to kind of get your perspective there, because it seemed like last week was a turning point, for lack of a better term, but no pun intended, but in our nation,
No, I would agree with that. I mean, I've been saying for a while that we could expect to see more volatility, not less, right? That for me also is one of those moments where it feels like, okay, it is a turning point. We have shifted, and can we go back, right? Like, can you put the toothpaste back in the tube? Can you go back to before last week? I don't know. I mean, probably not. Again, that sounds pessimistic, but I think that it is a shift. And unfortunately, I do believe that it will only lead to more violence, not less. And I think it's just indicative of like the social unrest that is going to be continuing to escalate. And if you have social unrest already bubbling up the way it is, and now not even just bubbling, but manifesting at the same time when the quality of life is diminishing and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is only growing, and I think that's only going to grow more, then of course you can expect to see things get even worse, which again, I hate to say because I do believe it's dark, but I'm a realist at the same time. And yeah, I think personally, as far as, again, from a prepping standpoint, like, I don't want to sound extreme here, but I do believe everyone, well, first and foremost, this one's maybe a little bit more positive, community. I talk about community a lot because trust is breaking down in our system. I actually think it was Grant did a great keynote at the Rick Rule Symposium we were both on about trust being a commodity and one that is basically like going to be the most precious commodity moving forward in our society because it's breaking down so significantly, whether it's in government, globally, nation to nation, peer to peer. And so I think finding people you can trust, finding voices you can trust, building that trust and community is huge and is going to be really important as we move forward. And then, of course, the really like classic preps like food, water, security, power, all of the different things, just to make sure that at this point in time, you're as prepared as possible. And I talk a lot, too, about information and accessibility to information and training has never been better. So get your skills in order, right? If there's something you want to learn. When we talk about gold, we say be your own bank, but you could also, if the means are there, be your own farmer, be your own, whatever it might be, just try and make sure you're as prepared as possible because I think we are going to see more of a fractioning of the world. And I'm not just talking nation to nation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for touching on that because I was looking at some of the research that have been coming out with the civility, the perception of civility being on a decline. And Ray Dalio recently had a post about civility on a decline in America, and last week's events definitely show that. And so just thinking about skills as well, I just want to say I went on my first backpacking trip recently. I was paranoid and everything, but
you're here to tell the tale.
I'm here to tell the story. I only saw a deer and a rabbit. Okay, so that was I thought I was going to see something like a bear or something, but didn't my fears didn't come true. So you mentioned trust. Okay, so I want to start there. I want to pull on that thread. So thinking about trust, right? There's the trust in the dollar has gone down. The trust in the U.S. government has been eroding significantly. We've had obviously the threats of tariffs and things of that nature. There's been a lot of conflict, a lot of back and forth, a lot of fighting words that have been shared and such. And we currently have proxy wars going on and such, right? And so recently, seeing the what's going on in the East, right? It seems like there's some trust being built in the East amongst nations. We've obviously talked about the BRICS and in our shows and such. And recently on the red carpet in the East was Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, I think Kim Jong-un, and it may have been some other folks there signaling that there's some trust being built there. And so I do want to touch on that. And is this should this be seen as a danger to Americans, or should this be seen as like, okay, we need to what should this be seen as? Like, I'm just trying to make more sense of that.
Yeah, I'm the first one to say that I think the majority of people are underestimating the BRICS. People love to underestimate the BRICS bloc alliance. They love to underestimate the East in general, right? And I think, again, it's kind of like status quo. As the U.S. has been on top. It has been that way. It will continue to be that way. America is America, right? Whatever it might be. But ultimately, I think we are seeing a shift in this global new world order, right? And I think that a lot of people also have said, oh, those nations will never get along, right? They'll end up just infighting. It will all fall apart. But that is not what we've seen, especially when there is a common goal that is stronger than any past disagreements, right? If you can unify around something such as using your forces together to create something that is better for your own nations, right? Whether that's cross-border trade or making sure you're strengthening each other during times when the U.S. isn't necessarily being the best ally, right? You're getting a lot of pressure from the United States. It only makes sense you're going to band together. And my take has always been that we should be meeting this with an olive branch, not with a stick, because things are moving forward one way or another, and we can either be a part of it or not. And I think us kind of shutting them out and making it seem as though we're just the big dogs in charge and it will always be that way, I think it's foolish, personally.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a big shift after the weaponization of the dollar with Russia, Ukraine, and it seems like ever since then, like there's hardly been any unity amongst nations, as well as just thinking about the recent meeting with President Trump and Vladimir Putin, and then he came back to meet with Zelensky, and you had all the EU there. I don't even know what came out of that meeting, right? And I'm just like, okay, it seems like things are at a standstill, and like they haven't reached any terms, and so that's been kind of interesting to see. I mean, obviously I've heard a lot of talks about the EU, just pretty much dying and like not going to survive, and they're not in a position of power and such. And so, what's your perspective there?
I think we all can feel the power shift happening, right? Like I truly think we all can feel it. It's not to say the U.S. doesn't have some more tricks up their sleeve, right? And that we're going to do everything we can, but we can feel the tables turning. One thing I do want to say too is, I think you asked earlier, like, should we be scared, right? And I think there's something to be said. A lot of people like to say, oh, China and Russia and these BRICS nations are banding together and they're trying to start a war with the U.S. and they're trying to come after us. And I don't necessarily think that's true. Do I think they are trying to upend the current dollar status quo? Yes. Do I think that if they're successful, that will negatively impact the United States in ways we can't even imagine? Yes. But I don't think they're coming after the United States in a way where we're like, oh, I just think it's classic for all of us in the United States to kind of have that viewpoint of the East and say, oh, they're all coming for us. No, they're just trying to get their seat at the table. For years and years and years, they have not had, I think in their opinion, right, the respect they deserve, or had that seat at the table, or had the voice that they should have had. And this BRICS bloc alliance, they represent the majority of the growing population, right? Natural resources. When we look into the future, they're going to be where the resources are, whether we're talking about people or commodities or whatever it might be. And I think that's why a lot of times when people look at maybe like the G7 or, the historical institutions that have kind of dominated the world, they're saying, well, maybe their time is up. It's not that they're not still relevant, but I think, again, we're having this like power struggle happen right now, but we can feel that it might turn into an actual shift.
Okay, so I need to know what is your bug out country?
My bug out country. To be honest, I actually don't have one because I don't think I would make it that far. As great of a prepper as I am, I don't think I'd make it onto a plane if things got that bad and get out of here and probably survive.
I know you got an RV or something.
I've got some places to go, but you better believe I'm not going to put them on here. Maybe I'll tell you later.
All right, sure. Okay, so just thinking about obviously the BRICS. I mean, it seems like they are trying to. They're being more capitalist than the United States. It seems like they are really trying to boost their infrastructures, boost the standards of living of their citizens. I mean, there's billions of people that live in those regions and such, and then even in the West, like, I mean, there's been a very large minority of people holding the majority of the wealth and such. And so, I mean, I could see them, positioning themselves to change this dynamic for the years and decades to come. And obviously, this is historical as well, in terms of the how global power shifts and such. And so, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're living in an era where, our country, may not be the global hegemony, going forward. And so, I mean, depending on how long this thing takes to roll out.
Right. What was it? I'm going to butcher the quote. I don't have it perfect, but it's a popular quote to say that all empires die, but I think Ray Dalio actually said like all currencies, empires, this, that. He had a long list that they all eventually end. And yet people are always surprised when they do. Right. And it's kind of like, to your point, at a certain point, the party's going to be over. It's not always going to be the United States in charge. I think we've had, honestly, even a longer run than probably a lot of people expected. And I'm not saying it's going to be over tomorrow, but I do think that the shift is coming. I do.
I think also, coming up in the next 5 to 10 years, I mean, with the whole issue with the Social Security trust running out and such, and then, things of that nature, I could just see a lot more populism and, issues coming forward with that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I mean, that's something I think a lot of people don't realize too, is when you think about our government spending right now, right? I mean, it's no secret we're going to continue to spend more. The debt burden is only going to increase at a time when there's less demand for our debt. Therefore, it costs more to service our debt because those yields go up. But supposedly things are going well right now, right? The economy is strong. The stock market's up. Things are going great. Oh, we're a little bit worried about the labor market, but the messaging we're being told is things are going pretty well. Well, what happens when that shifts? What typically happens, right? We would see more printing because there's going to be more people struggling and there's going to need to be more services provided. And I'm not even just talking about Social Security. I'm talking about Social Security. I'm talking about unemployment. I'm talking about everything that you kind of need to help keep your country afloat when your citizens are hurting. And I think, again, we haven't even gotten to that point yet. And that's only going to further exacerbate this debt issue at a time when everyone else is looking at the United States and going, hey, I don't trust these guys to default. And I'm not saying not pay back, but the silent default, right? It's like, what? We get paid back nominally, but it's worth so much less? No one wants that.
Yeah, every time I'm looking for a positive response, I'm about to have to start calling you the doom gal.
No. I swear I am actually a very happy person and optimistic, but like I said, a realist too, so.
No, yeah. We got to be real about this, and I do think that, holding gold and being able to ensure your purchasing power and protect yourself, protect your wealth is critically important. And so I think that should be a priority of all people. So, Taylor, where can people find more about some of the work you're doing? Where do you post that? How can people connect with you?
Absolutely, yeah. So I have my show, Taylor Made Economics, on ITM Trading. So you can find me on YouTube at ITM Trading, or you can follow me at X at Taylor Kenney ITM.
All right. Well, look forward to having you back. I know you don't do these interviews very often.
Only for you.
But yeah, appreciate that. So looking forward to having you back on the show and everything. And you all be sure to hit the subscribe button. Love to have your support as we're continuously pushing out content. Love to have that support. So hit that subscribe button. It's free to do. And until next time.